Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Snap on Ego. My name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsifer, and this is Chris Boom Boote, but we have time for that. We do not have time for that because this is an emergency episode. We are talking about a brand new patch that's dropping right now, right today. We're recording this in advance because you already know the deal with that, and we're going to be able to talk about some cool, different changes, and holy shit, Chris, they fucking nuked the game.
I don't know. Yeah, you said cool, different change. I'm like, I don't know how cool. There is one that I'm very excited about, but some of these, I was like looking at it. I'm like, Brad, we gotta hop on. So yeah, let's dive right into it. So the first one, this bothers me. Okay, so first one is Mobius and Mobius. This isn't an OTA. We're talking about patching, changing cards, functionality. So he went from a 2/3. Your cost can't be reduced, your opponent's cost can't be reduced, or your cost can't be increased, your opponent's cost can't be reduced. They changed him, same stats, 2/3, on reveal. So he went from an ongoing to an on reveal, and it says, until the end of the next turn, your costs can't be increased, and your opponent's costs can't be reduced. I don't like it.
So, let's see. Do I like this change? I fucking don't.
Should we read their logic behind it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be up on the screen, so if anyone watched the previous episode, I'm going to do the exact same thing in post that I did before, and, okay. But yeah, so let me pull it up, and actually you can do it, because mine just...
All right, I'll read this one. All right. So Mobius and Mobius has had a massive impact on the metagame, forcing a changing of the guard among top decks that saw perennial powerhouses like Zabu, Serra, and Death fall from grace in favor of decks that could push power by just playing cards for their normal energy costs. Like, by the way, this last week, everybody's playing, like, destroy decks. People don't give a fuck about Mobius.
Well, Death does.
Yeah, but people are still playing Death. They're just like, Mobius doesn't exist. But anyways, while we were eager to see the world Mobius would create, we expected to make an adjustment down the road in order to welcome cost reduction strategies back into the sunlight. Jesus. So they had this plan, like when they dropped Mobius, was it basically just like for the Loki season? You know, like, hey, Ravana's gonna come out. We're just gonna keep this in check for now. But today is that day, as we're shifting Mobius to provide a temporary counter that requires good timing to maximize the effect. This makes him trickier to set aside energy for, kind of like Shadow King, and also opens up counters like Magic for decks that are hyper vulnerable to Mobius played on turn 5. We're also interested to hear your feedback on our approach here, using a new card as a tool to create a new play environment temporarily. No. People are fucking pissed. And here's why. There are so many conspiracies, Brad, about, release broken card, get everybody's money, and then, and then nerf it. I don't know whose idea this was, but this is gonna look so bad, and this wording is gonna be so bad. I don't know. What do you think?
So, look, at first, when I first read this... because we haven't gotten to the card yet, because Mobius is the first card listed on this patch notes. When I first read this, I was like, you know what? I'm not a fan of it. However, it's same stats. It's still a 2/3. It's on reveal. So I guess you can still do the Wave Mobius thing on 5, was my initial thoughts. I'm like, I guess that's fine. You still have that, bag of tricks to kind of throw into a deck, and it's still going to be good enough. And, I'm kind of cool with that. But hey, guess what? You're fucking not. You're not going to do that. Because I'm going to skip Ravonna. Fuck Ravonna. Yeah. She's a 2/1 now, by the way. No one gives a shit. We got brought down to a 2/1. Shut the fuck up, Chris.
I'm going to talk about Ravonna.
We don't care about Ravonna. I'm skipping her for now. Wave is a 3/5 on reveal. All cards cost a maximum of 4. So what this means is she got buffed in power. She's a 3/5. She no longer increases the cost of anything under 4. So against Bounce, for example, Chris, your favorite deck to play, you don't have to worry. Fear not. Your Kitty is going to stay 1. Your Mysterio is still going to stay 2. Your Hitmonkey is going to stay 3. Wave doesn't do shit to that. All she is now is a tool for ramp strategies such as Galactus, or any other like Galactus or Electro ramp or whatever. That's pretty much the only thing she is now. Because all she does is reduce 6 and 5 cost cards back down to 4. And they go on to say that this is a change we've been sitting on for a while. But we didn't want to introduce such a shakeup to the metagame during a time when Wave was an important balance tool for managing specific matchups. However, the combination of Loki, Mobius, and Alioth have all led to Wave seeing play in more decks than just ones looking to slow the game down and play big cards. We're seeing a lot more decks get ahead, then use Wave to slam the door. Since that is explicitly not what is meant or what we want for Wave, the timing seemed right for this adjustment. Wave will no longer increase cards at all, just reduce cards to cost 5 or more to a maximum of 4. Because the effect is beneficial to both players, we're improving her from a 3-3 to a 3-5. This change is certainly a nerf to Wave in some strategies, and we'll look for her performance to evaluate future buffs. I fucking hate this.
Tell him about the video, Brad. Tell him about the video, because you might be a little sensitive right now.
I will admit I'm biased at the moment because I'm a little salty. I recorded a video this morning, my first gameplay video in a while for my YouTube channel, and I was doing a deck that I have dubbed Analytics, which I'm basically just taking the top cards that are not synergistic with one another. So no Destroy, no Loki, no Shuri kind of stuff. But outside of those archetypes, the top cards that have the best win rate, cube rate, and stuff like that, all in the one deck. And that deck happened to include, of course, Mobius and Wave. And I'm about halfway through editing it. I was going to be done with it today, most likely. And now I'm just a little salty that this change just kills that. So it makes that video null and void. I'll still release it, I guess. But look, I get it. They're future-proofing everything, but I don't know. This is a weird one. On one hand, I'm okay with it. On the other hand, I just do not like that in order to combat cards like Bounce, you have to play Sandman now. I know it feels bad to have a card just slot into any deck like Wave that can counter a deck like Bounce or a deck like Sarah Control or whatever, or just a lot of throw-up decks in general. But at the same, there has to be a middle ground, right? I shouldn't have to play Sandman in a random ass deck.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So after thinking about it a little bit more, if you remember when we had Sino and Super Tech got on, I was just no, fuck Wave, fuck that card, right? Because my issue with Wave has always been I don't mind that it's letting you do your thing. I've always hated that it prevents your opponent from doing a thing. Right. I hate that.
I get that.
If when Death Wave was running rampant, it's cool. If you want to do your thing, if you want to play She-Hulk, Death, and Arrow all on turn 6, fucking go for it. But it shouldn't stop me from doing what I want to do, right? That's where my frustration was. So with this change, I think this is the change that I originally always wanted. So I'm curious what's going to happen, because what this makes me think of, with Mobius or with Wave, as you were just talking about, do you think Marvel Snap is a better game when there are cards that don't fit into every deck, right? Mobius has been a card since release where it's you can just put it in whatever. But that's kind of how Nico is right now. That's kind of how Jeff has always been, where it's you're not really going to be at a disadvantage if you put certain cards in your decks. And Mobius legit just, he stopped being that. I can still, as a Bounce player though, I can see Mobius as being frustrating, but I don't think people are going to play him as much. If you screw up my turn 6, right? If I swoop up, if you play Mobius on 5 and I swoop up all my cards, I'm fucked. It's basically a wave.
Are you though? Right? Because all that's doing is just making them if you beast your stuff.
Never mind, I'm not fucked. No.
Yeah, you're mostly fine. You just lost the cost reduction.
Yeah, I will say. Yeah,
you can still fight through that.
Yeah, actually, never mind. Scratch that. Mobius hasn't done shit against me playing Bounce, because I'm oh no, my 1 costs are 1 cost now instead of 0. Yeah, especially because you don't really play Hitmonkey in Bounce anymore because they upped his cost. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know.
The big thing is Wave just not being there anymore. Wave's not a viable option. So really, this is my question now. Because I think we're about to enter a meta again. Now, Alioth will be able to provide a nice pressure point on this type of deck, like Bounce. But I think we're about to enter a meta yet again where the best thing to do is just throw up your hand like on the last turn, because now that counter is completely gone. It is flat out gone. The only instances in which I could see Mobius making a dent in anything is like if Surfer goes back to playing Sarah, which it probably will, right? Zabu come back to the forefront. Like playing Mobius on 5 to stop big turn 6s because of Sarah, at least neuter them a little bit, can absolutely see play and have a place, and I think that's fine. But the biggest issue is that you don't have the 1-2 punch of combining it with the card like Wave to just really say, you are not doing that shit. Like they can still fight through it enough. And like at that point, what have you done on the early game to really make a difference? I'm not a fan of it in the long run. If we get a card that's like a middle ground between like a Wave and a Sandman, which by the way, they buffed Sandman to a 5/4 because of this.
Look at you. You're so salty. You're just jumping all over the place.
I mean, so we can go back to Ravonna if we want to talk a positive thing. This is cool. She's a 3. She went from a 3/3 to a 2/1. Effect stays the same. This is something they talked about before, and now you can play her in like obviously negative. She's way better now because actually negative is just way better in general now because Mobius is out of the picture now. Yeah. Mobius played on 5 against a negative deck when they played Jane is lights out. That's very good. But here's the problem. You're not probably going to be playing Mobius after this.
Oh, yeah. No, people are going to say, like, I see people looking at Mobius as, like, the Spider-Ham treatment. But here's the thing. So a couple things that I've just been thinking of. First off, I'm blown away that more people haven't been playing Mobius. I just made a video on, like, the best deck per the metrics, which is Stature Darkhawk. And that Stature Darkhawk build that's #1, it's running Spider-Ham over Korg, which blows my mind because I've been winning nonstop with it. I don't know how, like, maximum you're getting your Darkhawk to like 8 power or something. Right. But it does run Shadow King, so the Spider-Ham makes a little bit of sense. But anyways, I still think Korg might be better in slot. But yeah, I'm surprised more people have been playing Mobius because Zabu and Darkhawk are they're back, you know? But yeah, with Ravonna, I'm very, 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 very excited. I thought they were going to take her down to a 2/3, so it's interesting that they like nerfed the hell out of her power too and made her a 2/1. I get it, but yeah, it's crazy because literally today, I was making room in my deck editor, by the way, give us more deck slots, but I deleted my Ravonna list that I loved playing. The loosey-goosey one. It uses Goose, and then you have low-cost cards and shit like that to play. And I just deleted it, so I hope I have it saved somewhere. I think I made a video on it. But yeah, I've wanted Ravonna to be good, and I think this might get her in a better place, especially with the other nerfs that we've seen.
Yeah, if you go back, by the way, you can go to your Untapped account and you can go to your decks. You can see.
Yeah, well, the issue is that sometimes like I'll just experiment with a deck on my phone, so it never logs it.
Yeah, but if you made a video on this one, then it's probably
I think I made a video. I think I made a video on it. So yeah, I'm gonna, if I find it, I'm definitely gonna be trying that out.
Question, real quick. I'm curious. Does this wave change? Does this bring back Death Wave? Does it work now?
Maximum cost of 4.
So if you kill 4 cards, does Death get? Because they haven't clarified.
Like Death and She-Hulk?
Yeah. Do they work with Wave again? Because to be fair, I think if you're going to do this change to Wave where it doesn't have the negative to your opponent, I am kind of okay with Death Wave coming back then.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, like I said, my biggest gripe was stopping me from doing what I was going to do.
Yeah,
so Death Wave came back.
Good, and this is basically just like Death Wave, but She-Hulk and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, it's just the math on that, though. The whole mechanics of how that worked always confused me, and I haven't had to think about it in so long because I finally got it to make sense once they nerfed it. Because if you reduce your death, right, then it's going based on because it's going to drop it down to 4. So then death only needs to be reduced by 4. So you only had to destroy 4 cards for it to be 0, right? How did that work?
Yeah, I'm asking right now.
Yeah. Huh. I'm trying to think. Because why did She-Hulk get such a reduction on that? Oh, because you only played 3 energy on turn 5. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, so on 5 you play Wave. Wave triggers, makes everything 4, and then She-Hulk sees you floated 2, goes down to 2 because she's at 4.
Yeah, and then your 6 cost would be 4 cost because she's
Correct.
at 2.
And then you can
we
go
did it. Oh my god, I feel like it was in a high school
4.
like algebra lesson. All right, so yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't work.
Well, it's if they keep that. So the issue with when they updated Wave, the reason it doesn't work anymore or didn't work anymore, is because it fixed the costs at 4. So basically, like, even though like it was the thing that trumped everything else. So the death reduction or like reduce or the She-Hulk one as well doesn't stack on top of the wave reduction. The wave reduction overwrites it and makes it 4 again. So so I imagine it stays the same. I imagine for the most part.
I don't think so. The way they changed this,
but it says maximum 4. So like, I don't know. I mean, I asked. I added Glenn. I asked. So if we find out an answer, before
you could do like because if this works, you could do You could do Wave into Death, Doctor Doom, and She-Hulk. But I will say this:
back. I don't know. Like I'm mixed feelings on that being back. If it is,
yeah, it is kind of nice. I don't know, but if it does come back, Mobius would stop that, right? You Wave on 5, I Mobius on 5, and we're good.
Correct. Yeah, but again, you got to play Mobius now.
Yeah,
which is like the same thing as like,
right?
Playing Spider-Ham and all that shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting, and if they get back to you by the end of the episode, we'll cover it. But yeah, so they did buff Sandman. They took him from a 5/3 to a 5/5. With Wave no longer functioning as a cost restriction and Mobius getting weaker, we'd like to give Sandman a buff in order to ensure he remains a relevant tool for countering decks that play a ton of cards on the final turn of the game. We'll keep an eye on his performance going forward because while we don't want a world where Sandman is as common as Wave was, we don't want him to have a meaningful presence. Like Ravonna and Mobius, this is the type of change we'd usually make in an OTA, but prefer it to accompany Wave's change. And
5/5 or 5/4, by the way, not 5/5.
Oh yeah, 5/4. He used to be a 5/5. And then they took
him
down to
5/3. 4 cost, God damn it.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'll say this. I've ranted about this on Twitter, but like, and I get it. Everybody has different styles of play, but I just cannot. I want to like playing ramp and Sandman decks so bad, but playing 1 card per turn is just the most mind-numbingly boring shit for me. And I wish I could be like you people who love Sandman.
I would love to be able to play Sandman again because you know what deck I love playing with him when he was a 4 cost with Ronin. Either make Sandman a 4 cost or make Ronin a 4 cost. Let me play them in the same deck. It was so good. So good.
Yeah. That I wouldn't mind playing. Like just so Ronin gets a little love. But yeah, we'll see because if Sandman spikes up again, they're gonna nerf his ass again. You know what I mean? But
here's the thing: they dig their grave themselves in this point. Like genuinely, let me ask. Is there a single counter in the game besides Sandman that stops the throw up your hand? And let's not count Professor X locking down a lane and limiting where they can play your junk. That doesn't fucking count because those are typically archetypes, right? In which they're going into. I actually think you should be playing Professor X in most decks, personally, because I love that card. Sorry, Jeff. He should not be fucking changed. I want to say that right now. But seriously, is there a deck or a card, specifically a single card, that genuinely stops throw up your hand on turn 6? I guess you can say Eliath. But like, Truly,
I don't even
Wave
count Elias. Like, dude, if I'm playing Bounce, Elias isn't doing shit. I have enough stuff spread across the board. If you nuke one of my lanes, you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I guess if you, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it's only Sandman.
I think
that's
Sandman
bad.
might be the only counter now.
Because here's the thing. If Sandman was a card, or there's a card like Sandman, people would probably, or let me back up. If there's a card like Sandman that could be played in other decks besides Ramp, I think people might be a bit more open to it, because I think a big thing that people not liking Ramp is the style of deck itself. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people don't like going up against it.
I just want to double check too. So the new cards, so the new cards we have coming are Gladiator, Annihilus, and Martyr. Martyr's down to a 1/4, but like Martyr, I think Martyr's going to see play in like Bounce and these like turn 6 dump your hand kind of stuff, because her text is at the end of the game, move to a location that loses you the game if possible. I don't know, like 1/4 stats isn't that amazing for that kind of downside, because wasn't she originally like a 1/5 or 1/6?
Yeah, no, she was like wasn't she like a 2/7 or something like that?
Something crazy, yeah. But she might be good with Elsa.
Or like maybe she was like a 3/7. I don't remember. But yeah, I do remember her being a lot bigger. I don't know. Looking forward, what do we? So like we're getting that. We're getting Annihilus. We're getting.
Gladiator. You know, I was just thinking with Gladiator too. If the other person fills their lane, does he just not do his own reveal?
Correct.
And you just have a 3/7? Gladiator's going to be a gangster card. But anyways, I was just looking forward because I'm like, you know, will we need stuff to kind of prevent? Like, is there anything making these dump style decks a little bit stronger or coming down the pipeline? And it's like, yeah. So, yeah, we'll see. I do think we're going to see Sandman play rate jump up, which I just absolutely hate. I hate it so much. So
I mean, again, but like by not having another tool available for players to stop certain types of decks if it's necessary, then it just fucking sucks. Like you've done that to yourself. That's why we need a middle ground. Like, what if there was like a mini Sandman that's like, I don't know, like, or like, how would you make a card like Wave that disrupts like decks like that without feeling super bad?
Yeah, you'd have to make a card that was like on reveal, next turn can play maximum X amount of cards or something like that.
Yeah, but like if it's like 2 cards, that can still be enough for a lot of decks. Like look at Deadpool, for example, or like Shuriti, going like that into Taskmaster, right? Or Shuri itself plays Taskmaster on 6 and then like maybe like a 0 to kind of.
But what decks are you worried about being too good? Because like I said, I haven't seen Mobius that much lately. He dropped to like a 23% play rate last time I saw. But are there decks you're concerned about getting too strong? Because I still think Bounce has like a ceiling that isn't too high. Still, it's getting some wins. Like I made a Bounce video the other day, but like
I'm not worried about certain decks being too good. I'm worried about the meta devolving into a bunch of those style decks. Not necessarily them all being too good, but it's Mobius and Wave was that kind of like that little button of like that warning in the back of people's minds of like I'm going to play this deck, but then they're like, well, I don't really want to lose strictly to those 2 cards, so let's try to maybe change the deck up a little bit or whatever. Without those, I feel like you just kind of, what's stopping you? Yeah,
it'll be, the only thing I can think of is just people who hate playing against those decks, like, they're just going to be playing an insane amount of Sandman Ramp again. And, like, that just irritates the hell out of me. Just as somebody who likes to play more than 1 card, like, per turn, that's going to drive me nuts. But, yeah, we'll definitely, we'll see. This next one
is awesome.
Very excited about. And by the way, I called this shit. What?
Yeah.
I've called this shit. I called this shit forever. I said, you know what? Negasonic Teenage Warhead is coming up in a Spotlight Cash. No way they're not giving it the Snow Guard treatment where they're reworking this card. And boom, God, I'm a fucking psychic, Brad. So she was a 3/5. After any card is played here, destroy this card and that card. I think one or both of us might have even called this exact change. So now she's a 3/2. After an enemy card is played here, destroy it once per game. So Negasonic has languished for a while now. We've seen glimmers of experimentation every now and then, but ultimately Negasonic has just not cut it in competitive decks. More concerning, she's also turned out to be a bit more complicated, even for more casual play, requiring a fair amount of insight into matchups and priority to manage effectively. The biggest hurdles there are that the card both restricts your own play and blows herself up. So now it doesn't do either of those things. To compensate for those for this newfound strength, when it comes to fighting over cramped locations on turn 6, we reduce her power a fair bit. So yeah, like I was like, yeah, you know what? Reduce her power, have her blow up the other person, but not you. Like, that's where it gets a little tricky. The thing that sucks is I do have this destroy deck that I like going back to, where you're just blowing shit up in order to have a big null and big death and a death on the final turn. And one of them is like Negasonic. You just put it down, and if you ate Negasonic with Venom, he doesn't blow up. So I kind of enjoyed that. So, but I do think this makes her much more useful, because beforehand, people could easily just sacrifice a crap card and then you don't have anything. At least now I have a little bit of power. If you want to waste a card, I still have a little bit of power over there. So I'm pretty happy about it. I don't know how much play she'll see, but I do think people will actually experiment with her a little bit more.
I think she could see a lot. Because like now, I think any deck that wants to play Alioth now kind of wants to play her, because if you have priority going into turn 6 and you want to call your shot on your opponent, because oftentimes turn 6 can still be a single card being played, right? Mm-hmm. So she'll be able to snipe those. That's awesome. That's like your mini Alioth, and gives you the flexibility to play a second card alongside her to kind of get some extra power.
Yeah. I'm also thinking too, like she could be decent with Forge or Elsa as well. You know, buff her up, make her a little bit more powerful too. So that also might be decent.
Surfer, turn 6, throw up your hand, Surfer, kill an opponent's card that's impactful, buff the rest of your board, including her. I think she definitely has a place to be played. I think this is way too powerful of an effect, which we've seen in Alioth. That's just scaled down a teeny bit in comparison, that there's no shot she doesn't land somewhere.
Yeah, especially with Shuri being popular again. If you can manage priority well enough, too, when they Shuri a lane, like you just drop Negasonic down and just blow their shit up.
Which is fairly easy against Shuri, because they usually kind of like armor and like, they'll Sauron probably somewhere else, then Shuri behind the armor. And usually, because Sauron, especially going down to a 3/2 now, you can gain priority in that lane. And then when another lane they haven't played into it all yet, while they're trying to set up their big, Taskmaster like play at the end with like Red Skull and stuff. So getting priority is fairly easy. The only downside about Shuri, which, it's a shame that Shuri players were able to put all their collective 3 brain cells together to figure out this play. Was to put Vision in their deck. To dodge stuff
Vision's
like
a motherfucker. But hey,
so if you're a Shuri player, I'm joking. Obviously, I like the deck too. Get over yourself.
I don't. It's another one of those very linear, boring decks for me. I get it. I get people have their own style. Just not for me. But these next two are just kind of meh. Ant-Man is just nothing. They just changed it for consistency. He does the exact same thing, but they made him more like they wanted to differentiate him from Mojo and Dazzler.
Yeah.
So he says, if your side of this location is full, +3 power. Okay, whatever. Now, this thing with Alioth, I don't know how often people were running into it, but Alioth is still the same, but his change is just, it's not even like text change, it's just mechanics. It says now only destroys enemy cards that are still on the opponent's side. So basically what would happen was, if somebody hobgoblined you and you Alioth, it blew up the hobgoblin.
Right.
And yeah, so now if you get Hobgoblin, he only blows it up. Like, he won't blow it up, basically.
See, they go on to say in the developer note that this is a functional adjustment. Says before, if the opponent revealed Hobgoblin before your Goliath would destroy the Hobgoblin. But Goliath's text suggests he would only destroy enemy cards, and in this above scenario, Hobgoblin has become a friendly. So I actually completely disagree with that sentiment. It makes sense in my mind. Goblins are never friendly cards. They are enemy cards that come to your side and fuck you up. They are literally villains, and they do their job perfectly in that sense. So in my mind, they are still owned by the opponent. Like, Magic has a difference between owned cards and controlled cards. If I control a card, it means it's on my side of the board, but that doesn't mean I own it. And there are cards that differentiate between the two, and they'll say destroy all, or like there'll be cards that say like return all owned cards to your side of the battlefield, right? Like, that's like those are cool cards. Like, sometimes like your opponent steals stuff or whatever, and you're like, I'll take that back because I still own it. It's still my card. It was generated by me. So in my mind, this worked perfectly fine as before, but from a balancing standpoint, I will admit I like this change because at least it gives a little bit of another option to fight Goliath. Now, if they have priority, which Goliath players want, it doesn't matter. You don't.
Yeah, it's just gonna blow it up anyways.
But if you have priority, then it can kind of be like, well, because there are plenty of situations where I'm looking at like my opponent's playing, and I'm like, well, if they Goliath, I lose, but only by 1 point, right? But now if I send a Goblin their way, I'm like, well, I win.
Yeah.
So it's a very niche change, but one that I think is fine. So.
Yeah. Real quick, because, we managed to do great on time. Real quick, are you getting Werewolf by Night?
Duh.
Yeah, but you're a completionist. Do you think he's going to be good? Do you like him?
Yeah, I think he was giving... It was between Nico and him, in my opinion, is the best cards this month. We're not counting Elsa. Talking about release cards, not season pass cards. Elsa, even with the nerf, I think is the best card this month.
Do you think he's going to be better than Nico?
I think by a hair. I think just barely. The reason is because there's like 80% of the game is on reveals, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Might be a bit lower now because we've had a few that aren't, but still, it's like 70+%. It's a huge amount of the cards in the game. And he's going to be great in any deck that just happens to run on reveals. Now, of course, you can synergize with him and do things like I'm interested in like a Silky Smooth deck that kind of leans a little bit more into some other on reveals. Maybe it runs Nico themselves. And then you might run like Polaris and Spidey, and like you bring back Miles again just to get on reveal hits on like your stuff, and like less. You still run Jeff and everything, but like just to get a bit more consistency on that. Of course, Surfer he's going to be good in because he's a 3-drop, and even just playing Surfer and having him bounce over and then get another buff on average just with that one play, he's a 3/7 now. That's a good stat line for Surfer decks, and that's off like literally one on reveal being Surfer. But he doesn't have to go in those kind of decks is what I'm saying. Like, you could just be like, well, I needed a 3 cost and there's a lot of on reveals in my deck, so I'm going to go ahead and just slot him in, and I think he can be powerful enough there. I did see, just to steal your thunder a little bit, I did see you tweet something saying about the poll or whatever, about people getting it, and then you like quote tweeted it saying, well, I'm bringing Shadow King to fuck up your day or whatever, and I sit there and say, the fuck you're not. You're going to try and guess your shot with Shadow King, and that bitch is going to be gone. He's going to be in a different lane, and I'm going to laugh and say, get fucked, Chris.
Now, so here's the thing. I fully plan on playing Werewolf by Night, but also this has been sitting in the back of my head for like weeks now, and I finally had an excuse to do it. What's their name? Their Twitter name is like VTuber Equinox, and they just posted a list of, it's like a Patriot style list, but it has a lot of tech cards. They're calling it like Patriot Tech or a tech combo deck. But anyways, the idea that I've had sitting back here for weeks, and I've been playing around with it by using their deck. Turn 6, Shadow King and Absorbing Man. You got a 2 and you got a 4. Boom. I'll find your fucking werewolf. I will find that bitch. You gotta. There's a 2 or 3 chance.
You got a 66% chance of hitting him, I guess, at that point.
Yeah.
So.
You know. So because this deck right here runs Shadow King, Shang-Chi, and Absorbing Man. It also has Enchantress. It's not running Zabu though.
This man. Like this guy was like going against decks. He's like, I'm fucking sick of this.
Yeah, no,
I'm
this is the
putting
kind of deck.
Every single counter card in this goddamn deck.
That's my type of deck. I've been loving it. I've been loving it ever since the Loki nerf, and things are coming back. I've just been running so many counter cards. I fucking love it. It reminds me of the Majantress days, just when like people didn't realize that tech cards even existed, and they would just snap me like, oh, what is this guy gonna do, right? And I was like, boop boop. I'm taking down Destroy decks. I'm taking down Darkhawk decks. I'm taking down all sorts of shit. I love it so much.
Real quick, you mentioned Loki. Let's talk about Loki real quick. Isn't Loki the biggest winner of this entire patch?
Yeah.
What not even close.
I don't know. I wish we were a fly on the wall in the room when they talked about these, and like, I don't know, man. Like Glenn, God bless Glenn. That man is gonna have a rough fucking day. A rough day.
I don't think he's phased by any of this shit. I think he just does not care. I think he's like the way that he's like slapbacks or whatever with the fucking replies and some of these questions and like the bluntness of what he says. I think he's a wonderful person. But I think he I'm sure he cares a little bit, right? He cares about people playing the game. He cares about people enjoying the game. And he wants feedback. But like, I think he has thick enough skin to where he's going to be fine.
Here's the other thing too. Like I've been on the team of just like, hey, calm down about Loki. I don't think he's too strong or whatever. And like, I don't know, just now with the lack of like stuff to keep it in check, you know what I mean? It's just a little bit worrisome, especially because it feels almost like a side grade with the collector buff, right? You gave collector 2 power.
Not even just that. You got to think about the big picture. Quinjet just comes right back into Loki decks again. The reason Quinjet had been cut was because Mobius. Like then it's the super dead card on 1, and like you're like, well, you know, even if because typically like if you cut Quinjet and you're like, well, even if they have Mobius, I still get their cards, I still get the buff my collector, whatever. Now you can go like turbo Loki again, albeit he is a 4/5 now, but still turn 1 Quinjet, turn 2 collector, turn 3 Cosmo to protect the collector, turn 4 Loki, and just have fun. Like that's gonna be an insane line, which isn't too hard to hit.
Yeah, I'm hoping people don't just do what they always do and just toss Mobius into a dumpster. I really think that there is a place for him in this game, especially because people aren't going to think anybody's playing him. But just like when someone disrupts your turn, just like we were talking about with Sandman and how much I hate Sandman and Wave, like Mobius is still going to be able to do that, you know? So I hope people experiment with him and just like fuck some people's turns up, right? Because just I want everybody to sit back and just think about how many times you've just mapped out your turn and then somebody does something that fucks the whole thing up. Like the additional cognitive load to just rethink everything, like that's major, right? Like just somebody doing a Silver Samurai on you and it taking the card that you were about to play, right? Hitting your Iron Man on turn 5 and you're like, well, there goes everything I was gonna do. You know what I mean? So I think there's still a place for him somewhere. It's just, I wish they would have made him like a 2/4, maybe. Just make it feel a little less bad about the nerf.
Who? Oh, Mobius?
Mobius? Give him a little power.
I would have rather seen him probably keep his ongoing, but go to a 4 cost. Like if I guess you can still use Zabu or whatever, but maybe a 5 cost, but then 5 cost, like he has to come down, like he's coming down with the likes of Sarah and stuff like that. So I guess that kind of still fits the mold of what you want him to do. And this is a better option, I guess, as a tech card, like kind of like a Shadow King thing. So yeah, 5 is too much. 4 works with Zabu. I don't know, man. It's just like, it's a weird thing. Like, look, I said it before. They have a get out of jail free card, all their cards. Just slap on. I can't have its power or cost reduced at all. Like could you imagine Sandman being a 4 again, but can't have it reduced, so you can't cheat it in with with Zabu. Now you could,
Yeah.
you still can with like Psylocke and like Time Stone, right?
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah, I don't know. We're gonna see. Yeah, it's very, very weird. But I don't know. Some of these are just very cool. Like, but the thing is, like, we had such a big OTA. I've been having fun just because the meta was shifted so much.
right?
Like now we're getting this other one. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, this game has the most changes of any CCG I've ever played. On a week-to-week basis, things change, and they can change drastically. We got a pretty drastic OTA last week and a pretty drastic patch this week. That meta is like barely a week old, and now it's shifting all over again. And that's why I can't take anyone seriously when they complain about like, oh, this meta is garbage. I'm like, just give it a fucking week and it'll change.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, like I said this like a week ago. I was like, that's what I love about this game. Like, even if I'm just extremely bored with the game for like a week, like I was when Spider-Man 2 dropped, so it was great timing. I was super bored with the game. Then they did this OTA. I beat Spider-Man 2, so I'm back. By the way, did they answer you about the Death Wave thing yet?
Nope, Glenn doesn't seem available. There's other conversations going. Yeah, Glenn's away at the moment. Yeah. So I had nothing. There's a whole discussion about feels bad with cards and shit, but that's about it.
Oh shit. Yeah, I'm trying to hold on, let me see. Let me see if I saw my deck. Oh fuck, did I not save that deck? There must but I must have made a video on it. I must have made a video on it. I just searched all my decks where I've used Goose. I'm not seeing the one with Ravonna. But anyways, it had Goose, it had Ravonna, and it had like Mystique, and I think both Goblins too. And you could just do some shit. You could do some shit. So yeah, you have Ravonna, right? Are you gonna play her?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you play her. Besides, like, you play her in like negative. You can do like. You can play her in Shuri if you really wanted to get like a turn 3 Shuri, but then what's the turn 4 play? Like, you know, Typhoid Mary? But then now you're not playing Sauron, so that doesn't really make much sense to me. I don't know. You know what's funny though? You know what's cool to look back on?
Huh.
Every single September card has been changed.
Every single one. Loki, yeah. Ravonna, Eliath, jeez. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Kind of nuts. But yeah, I don't know. Again, like we were kind of talking about, like, I don't know if it's going to be good. Like, they're going to be like, hey, we released this card, planning to change it in the future. Hope y'all like. Boom, found the deck. Found the deck.
I mean, look, I agree that people are going to perceive it in a bad way. But I don't think that's their intent and what they're saying. I think they're saying that, like, we're bringing out a card that we think is going to be very impactful, but we're also willing to accept that potentially in the future it could be too impactful and we need to kind of like make an adjustment. We already have those adjustments in mind of what they can be, but we want to give this a test drive first. And unfortunately that came to light faster than we anticipated, is how I perceive that statement. But I absolutely agree that, you know, the tinfoil hat conspirators are going to come out and be like, well, clearly you wanted my tokens. And you got my tokens.
Yeah.
Now you took the card away from me, just like Spider-Ham. Threw it in the fucking garbage. I'm never playing this game again.
Yeah, I think really people really need to any card you're planning on investing in, like, just think it's gonna change. You know what I mean? Like, if you go in with that expectation, you know, you'll never be disappointed.
I do also think that to touch on the fact that all 4 cards in September were changed, albeit one of them was a buff, but 3 nerfs, being Eliath, Elsa, or no, Elsa's the season pass, Loki and Mobius. So 3 nerfs to cards that were in spotlight caches. And then you buff Ravonna. How many people are going to sit there and go like, well, of course I bought the ones that were broken of that month, but I didn't get Ravonna because she looked bad. So you made the 3 that I got bad, and then you made the Ravonna good, and now they're not coming back in spotlights for months, and I can't get the card now because tokens. which is a genuine concern that people will present. And they're going to present it in a way that's stupid and I disagree with. However, the sentiment overall is something to consider. And I do think that there's something to be said about, because of the way it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. Like, you can't, for balance sake, you absolutely should be willing to do things like this whenever you feel is necessary as a balance team, right? But it doesn't make the card acquisition issue feel any better. It makes it feel worse, on the contrary, right? So I feel like this goes back yet again. They need a better way of acquiring. Spotlights overall have made things better, I think. But they've also made the feels bad feel worse than the previous system. Like, how many people do you see that they only open one or two because they're trying to high roll a card and they get upset? And yes, I know you can just be like, well, why didn't you save 4? Why didn't you do this? But like, a lot of these players just don't care about that, and they just want to, like, it's the gambler's fallacy, right? Of like, just like, I just want more and I'll go get it.
No, I'm owed one this time.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
man.
the math is in their favor technically. If every single spotlight, you only open a single spotlight for each week, right? Eventually the math will swing back in your favor and you will get that card that you want. But people will run on really cold streaks and then they'll feel really bad. And it just makes me sad. I don't know. Can we just give tokens some love again, please?
Well, something that you'll agree with our buddy Jeff on is, like, he's running a campaign where we need some fucking series downgrades too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with Jeff on that. I just don't agree with the Professor X rework thing. I think that's silly. I think that's actually probably the silliest thing I've ever heard him say.
Yeah, I don't know. Let everybody let us know in the comments. Do you think Professor X needs a rework? Like, I hate losing to him, but like, it feels good when you beat him. You know, the issue, I think Jeff's issue is when people can ramp him out. You know, have a pretty high power lane.
But Jeff, buddy, you're the math guy. You have 2 fucking degrees in mathematics. All right, so you should know, of all people, that any given turns 1 through 3, the time in which you want to play to ramp out your cards, you have a 23.52% chance. No, I'm sorry, a 22.22% chance, a 27.78% chance, and a 33.33 repeating chance for turns 1, 2, and 3, respectively, to get any possible card in a Thanos deck. So you have incredibly low odds of getting Psylocke or whatever in your opening hand or opening 3 turns, right? Pretty low. Like 33 is your cap for those cards. But then you also need Professor X. The math is not in favor of changing Professor X for that. That's insane. Because now what are we talking about? Are we going to be talking about just like, well, now you can just play Psylocke in a regular deck and ignore Thanos? Okay, well, now you only have 1.
Neglecting the fact that stones help you draw cards?
So
doesn't that change the odds a little bit?
I mean, it does, but you need it, but not by a lot.
Because like a Mind Stone on its own, that's going to change the probability, because if you didn't draw your Time Stone initially, that's going to increase the chances dramatically.
You still have a 33% chance by turn 3, which is lower on turns 1 and 2, by the way, 22 and 27%, to get your Mind Stone in those first hands. And also, you can't get Mind Stone on 3. You have to get Mind Stone on 1 or 2. So now you're looking at 27% as your cap on 2, 22%. I don't
know nearly enough math to like fully debate it. I'm just devil's advocate over here. Since
I wrote an entire article on this.
Did you? Oh.
Yeah, my America Chavez article has all the Chavez math.
Oh.
And I also did Chavez in Thanos deck math, which is why I know these fucking numbers offhand, because I had to do all this shit. And guess what? I consulted with Jeff himself on the math to make sure it was correct.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. But yeah, I don't know. And with Professor X, like, because Jeff does exist, Jeff the card, not Jeff the human. Jeff the card exists. Spectrum now too helps you get a little extra power into those lanes. Yeah, I just I feel like after the Spider-Man nerf, I'm not as concerned about him. You know, I'm always like, I might be able to get a little extra power in there if I feel like it. But anywho, let's wrap this thing up. We got almost to the hour. I'm looking forward to playing my Loosey Goosey deck. Found the list. I shared it with you, but I'm going to swap out Iceman for Nico and see how that goes.
Okay. All right. Actually, that's another thing. Iceman. Stock just went up. Mobius out. Iceman back.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
I wonder why not enough people have been playing Iceman as good as Mobius. Because I'm always trying to think. And, like, I ask people questions sometimes, and just because I'm like, what changed? Well, let me ask you this before we wrap up. Why do you think Darkhawk was gone for so long?
Because people had an over-reliance on Darkhawk shells with Zabu. And I think because they're like, well, Zabu got hit because of Mobius, so I can't really do anything with Darkhawk. I think people just didn't understand the value of Darkhawk on 4. And you don't need to do like the turn 6 double thing. That's great. Of course, the ceiling of Darkhawk decks with Zabu is fantastic, but people are too, how do I put this in a nice way? Stupid about their decks when it comes to like, they're too samey. They're too caught up in their feelings of like, it's like, okay, whether or not you agree with him as a person, and he's an awful person, whatever, that's fine. I can agree with you on a lot of that stuff. Louis C.K., the comedian, had a bit where he's talking about like going into traffic or whatever, and he's like, there's always that person that they want their life to be the same. Like people will like, you see that car that veers off 4 lanes across traffic and they're going like, what the fuck are you doing? They're like, well, I'm sorry. This is where I usually turn. This is my turn spot. This is where I go home. And they're like, I could go a mile up the road and the time it takes to get home is about the same, but I need to go this way because that's where I usually, that's how I do it. That's my turn. And that's the same thing with like decks and shit like that. Like they play with Zabu. It's like, Zabu's my card. I don't want to not play Zabu. I'll just not play the deck entirely. They don't want to change the deck. So I think long-winded, that's the way, or that's the reason Mobius had an effect.
Yeah, and I will say, I think that's why there's so many psychological nerfs. It's like people always want their decks to do the most busted things, right? Like, it's okay for decks to be mid. It's okay for decks to have good matchups, bad matchups. It's okay for them to, just have good draws and bad draws. Like, it's all right. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the strategy of the game comes in, and that's why people are haters against the Galactus. Well, the Galactus one's a little bit different, but like the Shuri decks, they're just going in this linear kind of way, right? They don't require too much thought process. When you see a lot of the most popular decks, it's because they're so easy to pilot. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I guess I get it because you want to be able to play Marvel Snap. Half the time I play Marvel Snap, I'm watching TV with my girlfriend. You know what I mean? So I'll be like, I'll just bust out like a real simple to navigate type deck,
for sure, he's great for you, buddy.
Yeah. So, but even that'll just make me fucking bored. But yeah, it's okay for decks to just be kind of like, and it involves a little bit more experimentation. But yeah, anyways, fun episode. Let's wrap this thing up. Are you still posting that video?
Yeah. I have another podcast literally to do tonight for Can't Stop Snapping. We have a special guest on their podcast. Can you guess who our special guest is, Mr. Chris? Who's our special guest on Can't Stop Snapping?
Glenn Jones.
No, it's not Glenn. I can't fucking message him. You have to be a friend with him on Discord first, and his DMs are closed on Twitter. It's not like I sent him a friend request. He won't answer me. I can't fucking message him. So no, not Glenn. But it is a big streamer.
The KM Best?
No, it's Binks.
Oh, Binks? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we got Binks on. He was on the first ever episode of Can't Stop Snapping back when Michael did the show. So we got him back on. I got to link up with him at SnapCon a couple months ago. And so he'll be on, and we'll have a good time. That's in a couple hours. And I don't know if I can finish editing that video by then.
If it makes anybody like Brad feel better, we're probably going to get Glenn Jones onto this podcast at some point. All right, he's just a busy guy. But some of us on this podcast do got connections because they have amazing personalities. What can you say?
Well, thanks. You shit, Brad. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
thank you so much, everybody. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed this wonderful, amazing emergency episode of Snap on Ego. Again, my name is Brad, otherwise known as Bradsford. This is Chris Boo and Boutte. As my pastors always say, we love you. May our faces shine on you and be gracious to you. May we look on you in favor and give you our peace while you give us your thanks. Amen. I always get that backwards in some way or
I
the
can't
other.
wait for the day where you screw up our podcast name. You're going to be like, oh, this is the new Lorcana podcast. Oh, shit. Oh.
I am professional enough where I won't mess up the name. But, you know, if I do, you can yell at me then. But we will see you guys in the next couple weeks when there's another nerf to your favorite card. Bye-bye.
Peace.